Hey, greetings, everybody. David Chatham here with Angel Oak Creative. We're here for another installment of our Tough Talk series as part of our focus on nonprofit tough this year. 2020 was, I think anybody would describe it as a tough year. And what we learned from that are a lot of things that, when the going gets tough, the tough nonprofits get going. And we saw that more than ever last year. So we're really excited today to have the doctors of donor relations, as I like to call them. They live and breathe this world, and I couldn't think of anybody better to have on to talk about the relational aspect, that tough nonprofits are relational. They build relationships. They're not transactional. So I've got Kathryn Gamble and Gail Perry of Gail Perry and Associates here. Certainly want to give you time to introduce yourselves. As I was thinking about this, when we're talking about building tough nonprofits, I think of you guys as like fitness coaches, right? That you're out there helping them build those muscles to go out and build relationships and do that sort of thing. So I'm excited that you guys are able and willing to take the time to talk to us. I know you're busy. You guys, Gail, you want to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about Gail Perry and Associates real quick, and then we'll let Kathryn talk a little bit about herself.
Thank you, David. But first of all, I want to thank you and Angel Oak Creative for putting this together. By the way, everybody, it's not supposed to be a commercial for Angel Oak, but we highly recommend it to our clients, and we're very picky about materials. So for them to be recommended means that they pass a pretty high bar.
Thank you, Gail.
But I founded Gail Perry Associates, 20 odd years ago. When I left Chapel Hill, I was director of development at the Keenan Flagler Business School. Before that, I was at Duke University. And so the consulting company's had many adventures, worked all over the country and the world, actually. I wrote a book years ago and became a popular speaker because I'm Southern and tell funny stories. So people like to hear me speak.
A great combination.
Yeah, but I recruited Kathryn every year. I would have a Christmas party, and I would say to Kathryn, "You've got to come work with me. We'd have so much fun together." And so finally, I talked her into it, and we are expanding our consulting company. We're adding consultants right now. We've got projects all over the country, and very exciting for us. We have Kathryn and I do a lot of training and speaking, as you know, so we sort of bring that coaching aspect to our clients. We're having a very, very experienced trainers and coaches. I think it's a lot of added value for our consulting clients.
Very much.
That's great.
So
Kathryn, you want to tell a little bit about yourself?
I'm Kathryn Gamble, as was mentioned. And as Gail said, she recruited me, but I've known Gail for a long time. So we both cut our teeth in fundraising in the major gift world and with major universities. Gail started at Duke. After a gig with a consulting firm, I actually started my own fundraising career at UNC Chapel Hill. So we have a lot of that in our background. Capital campaigns, we are all about campaigns. I've done major gifting campaigns all my career. So, and I do have a PhD, a doctorate in public administration from North Carolina State University, although I never did work there. Anyway, it's another story. We'll just leave that there. And anyway, my research is in nonprofit governance arena. So bring a lot of that expertise to the table.
We are founded sort of in the University of North Carolina system, because Kathryn, tell us about your stint at East Carolina.
Yes, I served. I had a 5-year stint as associate vice chancellor for university development at East Carolina University. Wow. So quite a bit back. It seems like it was yesterday, but it's a while back. Yeah. So we have some deep experiences in the university realm. Again, in large university context and large campaign context.
But that also gives us a perspective that we bring to all of our clients. We have clients in the healthcare, big medical systems. We have the social service organizations around the country, and everything in between, arts organizations. And,
education.
Yeah, a lot of education, independent schools. And so we bring, the university world is very comfortable with high dollar donors and high net worth donors. And university fundraisers are trained to think big, and to be very comfortable with the highest echelon of donors. And it's important for all nonprofits, tough nonprofits, to think big and to imagine that they too can easily capture the interest of mega donors. In fact, one of our major gift coaching clients, the YWCA of Walla Walla, Washington, way out there on the West Coast, they received a $5 million Mackenzie Scott grant out of the blue. And several other of our have just received. And so it's like, so a mega philanthropist is willing to assist and donate to and believes in the work of a lot of small, scrappy nonprofits.
And I think
that's great.
Yeah. I think one of the traits of a tough nonprofit, especially as we were talking about in the relational context, is resilience. I think that's almost a synonym for tough in this context, that resilient nonprofits. And also I would say nimble, able to seize opportunity when they see it. So what Gail and I have seen over the past years, David referenced earlier, the 2020 being the year that it was. I don't have to explain it to anybody. What we saw, those organizations that were very successful in their fundraising throughout the year were those who were able to quickly adapt and who stepped up. And we saw other, I remember, like right after the shutdown, I was on the phone with a client and they said, "Oh, we have to stop fundraising." Well, after I woke up from the faint I fell into, we had the conversation, and that obviously did not happen. They moved forward, but there were many organizations who their board or their ED, or sometimes the fundraisers themselves thought, "Oh, we have to stop now." That was not the case. And those that did not were very successful.
I would talk about that. Yeah, that's great. Talk about that, when we moved into that time frame and what you're seeing now of really the value of really during those good times of cultivating those relationships. So when the tough times come, what does that mean? That you don't wait for that crisis to hit. How important is it to really, and what are the steps that nonprofits can take to start and build those relationships over time? So when the tough times do hit, those donors, especially those large donors, are primed and ready to respond.
Well, a lot of it's in the word relationship. And there's a difference between a transactional one-time gift and a long-term relationship. And I think I think I can fault the board members sometimes for thinking too transactionally, because they don't want to invest in fundraising and they are embarrassed by fundraising, and they push the staff to just get the money and run. Whereas a smart and more enlightened, tough nonprofit is going to understand that once a donor makes a gift, it's the beginning of hopefully a very long time, happy funding relationship. But it starts with the mindset of, is it going to be transactional or is it going to be transformational?
Right. And so we like to talk about mindset. Mindset's very important, and a mindset of abundance. And organizations with a mindset of abundance, fundraisers with that mindset of abundance, are more likely to see the glass half full than half empty, which helps a nonprofit to be more tough. And one of the things we advised our organizations, client organizations, to do, I'm just going to go back to 2020 and into the first part of the pandemic, because it's relevant to even non-tragic times such as this. And that is that they got closer to their donors. They made calls to their donors that were not about asking, which is transactional nature. Yeah. Just always treating your donor like an ATM machine, the Chicken Little fundraising, the sky's falling, help us. No, we had clients call the donors to just say, "How are you?
Yeah.
You're doing okay." And we had clients say things like, "Donors that I never could get on the phone before were taking our calls." One person I called,
because they were quarantined.
Well, that's true. There is that. And so they had time and needed somebody to talk to.
That's right.
You know what? Seize the moment. So there is a lot of being a little opportunistic in a way, in a positive way, not a negative way, of seizing the moment and staying close. I also think that part of the really, and Gail and I were talking about this on our Facebook Live today, this quality we call likability, and for fundraisers. And part of that is an authenticity that goes into it. So I really believe that actually in this moment, people became more real. Fundraisers became more real, just genuinely calling people to see how they were, furthering, advancing the relationship, talking about their organization or institution as the donor asked about it, not because they were calling because they said, we'd love to update you, which is like kiss of death wording in our book.
Yes, we'd love to update you. Okay, yeah, so strike that from your vocabulary, right?
Yeah, nobody really wants to be updated.
And they also don't want to be cultivated.
Right.
You don't want to either. The number one way to develop a relationship with the donor, well, there are two ways. One is to say thank you warmly and promptly and personally. But the other way is to ask the donor about their interests and why they care about the organization.
Yeah.
And that's a fun conversation that people don't ask. They don't ask their donor, why do you want to give to our downtown museum? Why
don't they ask that question, Gail? What, I mean, is it just oversight, or are they afraid of the answer, or what do you think?
They're so conscious they think that they're supposed to give a presentation.
Okay.
And they don't understand that their job is really discovery, and that they find out as much as they can about the donor. So there's this fundamental misconception of what the relationship is really all about. It's not about the organization talking and selling the donor. Instead, it's like, tell us how you came to choose our organization to give to. Love to know.
Great question. Yeah. Real basic, right?
Yeah.
Very.
Yeah. I mean, I tell a story often that I was a former dancer, ballet dancer, and I've served on many dance boards and chaired lots of dance stuff. And nobody has ever asked me why I care about dance. Nobody ever asked me. And it would unleash the floodgates of an emotion, a connection, a heart connection. And then they would find out that I prefer modern dance more than the toe shoes. And then they can cultivate my interest in the area that I'm most interested in. Like every organization has different aspects. And so a donor has got a fondness for some aspect of your work, and you got to find out what that is.
Now, Gail, is that just as effective, or can it be as effective on a broader scale of when you get to a smaller donor, in terms of their, but still wanting to have a relationship with them, is there a way to ask that question more broadly of a larger audience, or is it really only an opportunity when you can get kind of one-on-one with them?
Well, they're donor surveys.
So those are good tools.
And then follow up with direct mail or videos or whatever communication you want to create to tailor to the donor's interest area, for sure.
Yeah, also, and we love donor surveys.
Yeah, many small donors come to events.
Right.
And you can ask everybody at the event, why did you choose to come to the Ronald McDonald House event tonight?
Yeah.
Love to know.
Some small donors become large donors, right?
Yes, they enter at all stages and places. That's the thing about developing a major gift pipeline that we have to grasp, is that it's not a lockstep circle, that donors enter into that pipeline from many places. And we have to, so there's a flexibility of mindset that also is a good trait of a tough nonprofit. But I also want to talk about that word relationship, because my favorites, I wrote a blog post about this. We were talking about the word relationship because we use it, but we don't really define it very well. And there's that wonderful scene from Love Actually, where the Hugh Grant character who plays the prime minister is speaking to the, forget the guy's name, who's playing the U.S. president. And who hasn't been very nice to him, the president. And the Hugh Grant character, the prime minister, says something like, that word relationship, it covers all manners of sins. Because the president just said, oh, we have a good relationship. But So when we talk about relationship, I think we have to understand what it is we're talking about in terms of, one, the relationship is really held between the donor and the organization. Our role is representing that relationship, that person's philanthropy. It's very personal. It's especially with the major donor. It's personal at all levels, but it's especially personal at the major gift level. Because you're actually going to be doing a lot of talking and relating to the donor. And the challenge is, I think we come at this and we talk about relationships, but what we're really saying is sales, but we're not selling.
Right.
We're not there to convince the donor. And this is where I think talking about why fundraisers, major gift officers don't ask questions, but instead make assumptions, is that they think they're just selling. So if a donor does something like, I don't know, goes to the ballet, like Gail's example, or goes to something, they just assume they like whatever they happen to see the donor engaging in. Whereas if you actually talk to the donor and ask that wonderful question, would you share with me why you're interested in our organization, or how you came to support our organization? You will be amazed at what you'll find out, because just because they're enjoying that particular performance doesn't mean that's where their passion lies.
Yeah.
And everybody likes talking about themselves anyway. So if you want to develop a relationship with a major donor, you're all about them. And the more they talk, the more you find out about their philanthropy, and you find out about their timing, and you find out about who else they give to, and what they like when they're a donor, and how they like to be treated, and whether they have a donor advised fund or whether they're getting an inheritance. I mean, they'll just tell you all this stuff. But
you're like, I wish I knew that, but all you have to do is ask, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to develop trust and rapport, and it comes out over time. But donors, I mean, they have told me way more than I wanted to know. How about you, Kathryn?
Oh gosh, I had a donor tell me one time, and she said it in almost an offhand way, but she told me what her original purchase price of Apple stock was.
Oh.
And all I can tell you is that capital gain was significant.
That lady had paper profits that she needed to gift away, those paper profits.
Wow. So where does you mentioned this mindset of relationship and relational thinking? Where does that start in an organization? Does it start in the development team? Where does that need to come from?
Well, we talk a lot about a culture that supports philanthropy and fundraising within every nonprofit. And that's a struggle to get the board members and the executive team and the CFO, who's really trying to cut costs, and plus all the fundraisers to agree that this set of strategies works and has a very high return on investment. So to take a long-term approach to fundraising means that you're going to make investments now and they're going to pay off forever, as opposed to the transactional is how much can you get from me next month?
Yeah. So it is getting the board and the executive team on board to help make that decision, to whether it's investing with someone like you or Angel Oak or somebody to help develop that platform from which they can begin those relationships, right? Mm-hmm. What does it look like when someone engages you guys to come in and help them build that culture of philanthropy? What are the first kind of things that you guys do to help move them towards that?
Kathryn, you want to answer?
Yeah, well, I think one of our first steps, and especially when we're talking about kind of a change management like project, which building a culture of philanthropy would be, is that we always start with some level of assessment, kind of understanding where everybody is, where the board is. That may be either through interviews or survey or combination thereof, to kind of get a feel for what, as Gail was saying, donors will tell you everything. So will clients. If you would listen, the same skill sets we talk about with major, how you treat your major donors are also how we approach our clients.
Right.
So these kind of conversations with this, with asking, where they are and talking this through them, we learn a great deal. And clients, I'm sure you all have this too, will tell you with various statements, the kind of outcomes they want. They'll say things like, wow, we just would love to raise 20% more next year.
Right.
Or we really would like, our to better retain our donor pool. Or we're planning a campaign and we're not sure how ready we are, or we're not sure that our project will be received well by our donors. Or usually what we get is we don't know how much we can raise,
right.
which is a typical question.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about all of those questions is the answer for it to be successful is about relationships, right? I mean, whether you're trying to raise more money or gain more donors or build this culture of philanthropy, that it really does come down to that foundation that the relationship is the important thing, right? That becomes the goal, and the byproduct of that is the fundraising. Is that a good way to look at it?
Yeah, well, it's a friendly relationship, and you can't be afraid of your donor, and you have to be likable and like them, and it's based on the donor's interest.
Now you're talking crazy, Gail. Now you're talking crazy.
It's based on the donor's interest in the organization. So, I mean, these lovely people care about our work. We should not be afraid of them. We should not stay away. Sometimes I think it's a matter of organizational resources. They don't spend any money on donor loyalty or donor reports, so they don't want to have that staff person out there just doing what we call stewardship or thank yous, circling back to the donors, and that's such a huge mistake.
Yeah.
Well, as we're going to wrap up real quick, a couple of things. As my dog barks in the background, apologies. The couple of things. One is what is the first step, or what is one step that a nonprofit can take to become tough in this area, to be tough in that relational side of things? Other than calling you, obviously, what can they do kind of internally that's going to help them take that first step or to move forward towards being a tough nonprofit when it comes to building really solid donor relationships?
Kathryn?
That's a great question. Let me think about the first step they should take.
I have an idea.
Go ahead.
It's got to be a shift in mindset first.
Yeah.
And then why don't they try a listening tour with their donors?
Ooh, that's a great idea. I love it.
Really simple. And board members can be part of it, and staff can be part of it. Program managers can be part of it. Executive team can be part of it. And just a listening tour. And of course, you're going to carefully think about your questions, but that will help educate. I think that's a way to educate board members and the executive team on why these donors really care, and maybe understand philanthropy a little bit more so that they'll be more supportive of it. And of course, it's great for fundraising. Great.
I love it.
That's a great.
I think that's great. I mean, well, thank you guys so much for spending time with me today, for spending time with Angel Oak and our viewers today. Such great insights and suggestions. How can people reach you, Gail? If they want to reach out and find out more about Gail Perry and Associates, what you do and how you might be able to help them, how can they reach you?
It's gailperry.com, PERRY.com. But I don't know if you know that, David, we have a brand new company name, and it's now Gail Perry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know
Gail
that,
Perry
obviously.
Group. Well, we're just doing a soft launch of our new identity, and because we're expanding.
The big launch is happening here, so good deal.
We'll probably make a big announcement in the future.
Well, congratulations. So Gail Perry Group, if they want to find out about Gail Perry Group, how do they go about that?
GailPerry.com or GailPerryGroup.com.
Okay.
And also, if you really want to work on your major gift relationships, go to MajorGifts.com. And we're accepting applications for our Major Gifts Intensive, a training program and coaching program we do every year. And it's a great time to learn the skill set that will take your organization from transactional to transformational gifts.
Well, and I've seen it firsthand working with you all, just the way that you dig in with clients. And it's obvious that you love this work. It's not just a job for you guys. You love making nonprofits better and making them have a bigger impact, allowing them to make a bigger impact by giving them the skills they need to be relational, to be transformational. So thank you guys for all you do. Thank you for being willing to spend some time today and for helping our nonprofits be tough. And look forward to staying in touch with you and seeing you in all of the places that you guys appear. I think you're cloned because you're everywhere all at once. So are you sure there's not more than one of each of you?
Whoops.
You found out our secret.
Well, thank you guys so much. And
thank you, David.
And yeah, you have a great day.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.